All right, Sistas fans, hope everybody's doing well. We're going to talk about last night's episode, the one we've been waiting for. Ever since Karen told Zack that she was pregnant towards the end of Season 3. Season 4, Episode 13, entitled Shaking in the Rain. Not gonna lie, not a great episode. I tweeted this out last night. I mentioned it during the live stream. I passed out around 6:45. I'm like, okay, let me get a little bit of a nap in. That way I'm wide awake for the episode. I woke up like at 8:47. I'm like, holy crap, I cut it really close. So, watch the episode. I was waiting for something to happen. And, I mean, Tyler Perry does what Tyler Perry does. He can have one of the most lackluster episodes of all time. But when you get to those that last scene, you know, whether it's 2 minutes or less, Tyler Perry comes through like dominoes because he always delivers with cliffhangers. So I'm going to give this episode a 6 out of 10. Now, despite me saying that it was rather bland and dull, it wasn't awful. I still say that this episode in itself was better than the mid-season finale, episode 11, The Fine Wine. But this episode really didn't do it for me. I feel like there were way too many scenes that were just dragged out. And no, look, this isn't me just saying, well, yeah, Jeremy, you just wanted them to reveal the pregnancy thing early in the episode. To be honest, I wouldn't have minded that. Whether it be the halfway point or even at the very end, let's say, I'm going to be honest here. I thought the final scene probably would have been, you know, Zack attacking Hayden at the law firm. But instead, we just got way too many scenes at the doctor's office with Zack and Karen. And don't get me started on the bank scenes with Sabrina, Maurice, Q, and Calvin. That was just dragged out way longer than it needed to be. But yeah, that's pretty much it in terms of things I felt were wasted. So instead of spending, you know, an 8-minute tangent on Q and Maurice, I'll say that for the end. Let's talk about the doctor's office stuff first, because I know that's what everybody wants me to talk about. So, before going further in the video, make sure you hit the thumbs up button to show you like it. Hit subscribe and hit that bell icon to select all. That way you don't miss out whenever I post content on the channel. Alright, so Karen is a bit stressed out, and I mean, look, we get what? 1, 2, 3. Yeah, I think we get 3 scenes at the doctor's office here. The first one, yeah, she's just, you know, stressed out. And yet again, she just constantly denying Aaron's timeline. And it's funny because I was going to make a small video about this because somebody in the comments of the preview breakdown was like, why the hell is Karen sitting up in that doctor's office wearing that hospital gown like a jacket? Thankfully, I didn't do that because the episode explained why she's doing it. It's because she says she's cold because doctors' offices are typically cold. Look, I haven't been inside of a hospital in a while, but is there a specific reason the hospitals are kept cold? I mean, if I remember basic science, isn't cold air supposed to, like, you know, kill or freeze germs or something like that? So is that why doctors' offices are cold? Again, I don't, maybe I should just Google it, but you know, there's somebody in the comment section that knows, let me know. But yeah, she's wearing it like a jacket to keep her warm. And look, I don't want to sound like, you know, the typical internet personnel that, you know, talk Russell Wilson being simp and whatnot, but this was basically Aaron's whole stick the entire episode. Just, you know, It just felt like he and Karen were doing the same thing we always seen him do. Him acting overly, you know, sweet and generous, and then she's questioning, why are you so sweet to me? And he explains how his parents raised him right. You know, they're just down home, like Midwestern people that raised them well. They're hardworking. They're still alive. We're still on good terms and everything. So, yeah. And in terms of Karen's parents, you know, she mentions her mom. Thank God. It's kind of funny because last week, you had Andy name drop Paris for the first time and who knows when. And then in this episode, we throw it back all the way to season 1 with Karen's mother being mentioned. And the fact that her dad, you know, apparently it was something bad, she doesn't want to talk about it until like after the baby's born, and she's drinking because it's just something she doesn't want to talk about. And then he talks about ice cream, and she's like, what, you want me to get fat? Impossible. Even if you got fat, I still love you. And then he kind of rubs on her shoulders to keep her warm, blah blah blah. So usually I like these moments where you get character moments, so this wasn't bad. But then we go to the doctor's office again, and then the doctor actually arrives, goes in there, wash your hands. I like that, because trust and believe, if the doc didn't come in there and wash her hands immediately, people would have said something about it. But yeah, Karen explains why she's there. Well, I'm pretty sure I'm pregnant. I took an at-home test, and I just wanted to see how far along I was. And it's just funny how it's just hilarious due to the fact that the doctor again just introduces herself, and he just says, wow, Karen, well, nice to meet you. You seem very sweet. And then Aaron is like, yeah, she's the sweetest. And if you look at how that like slow side eye that Karen gave Aaron, like, she was annoyed. It was hilarious. But she explains, yeah, we can test to see if you're pregnant. And then I think the question was also asked about, could you check to see how long, how far along she is in order to kind of calculate the day of conception. And as a result, that could take a bit longer. And I mean, to be completely honest, I was under the impression that, take a bit longer. I guess we got to wait several episodes for that. Like, maybe we'll find out if Karen is pregnant in this episode. But then in terms of finding out if Aaron's timeline is correct, that will take maybe the mid-season finale. But no, we actually found out in the episode, which I found quite surprising. So I believe the doctor stepped out, and at this point Karen has a bit of an attitude. It's like, why do you want to know so fast? Like, why do you want to know right away? And to be honest, it felt like, I guess you could say, Aaron was doing a lot of the talking in the meeting, and Karen didn't like that. Now let me put it this way, I'm not a father. I don't have a girl pregnant, and obviously I'm not a woman, so there are lines of boundaries that I can definitely feel some people agreeing that Aaron has crossed. But at the same time, well, I don't know. Okay, let me get to the last scene first in the doctor's office, and I'll talk about it. All right, so they're still waiting in the doctor's office, and it's kind of a, I'm sorry for snapping at you. Yeah, you always question why I'm so sweet and this and that. Again, just the same old scene. I mean, okay, so the doctor comes in with the results. She's definitely pregnant. So folks, without a shadow of a doubt, Karen is with child. However, before the doctor can say how far along Karen is, she tells Aaron to leave the room, saying, this will be agreed to. When was that established? Was this off screen? I mean, okay, so Aaron leaves the room, and the doctor says that, wow, yeah, you're barely 4 weeks pregnant. And I'm surprised that the at-home test actually detected it. So then from there, you can kind of tell that, that meme where that woman's like trying to calculate, or, even that meme where that guy's at the poker table calculating, and you see numbers, all calculations all around. And then Karen's like, at this point, she's kind of grasping for straws, like, wait, so how much time does it take from having sex to detect a pregnancy or become pregnant? It takes about 6 days after conception, and apparently usually pregnancies are detected by like 6 weeks. Look, I'll do a separate video on that, 'cause I know I probably butchered some of the dialogue, but basically she's at least a month pregnant. Okay, I actually went back to rewatch the scene, and after it was confirmed, it was about 4 weeks. You can kind of see the pigment leaving Karen's face. She was kind of losing breath, just not being able to breathe because she was stunned at the news. And look, without a shadow of a doubt, Zack clearly isn't the father, because if the doctor told her basically what she wanted to hear, she would have been elated. You would have seen her probably skipping out of that hospital, and she would have been doing a handstand, walking on her hands, just because out of pure excitement that Zack is the father. But she even goes on to ask, wait, so how long, after 6? So I think that means 6 weeks. In her mind, that's okay, that's the last time me and Zack had sex. So if, 6 weeks, how quickly can you become pregnant at 6 weeks? And, well, whatever. But like I said, I'll do a separate video on that. Like I said, I probably butchered some of the dialogue, despite the fact I just watched the scene. But yeah, Zack isn't a daddy, because she would not have reacted the way she did. Now, that leads to a whole bunch of questions. Will she tell the truth? How long she's going to hide this? Yada, yada. Again, separate video, but Karen is messy. But going back to my earlier point about Aaron, to be completely honest, I'm not a woman, so I really don't want to speak on, rights and whatnot. Well, women's rights, so to speak, because yes, it is her body, and whoever the father is, it is her child within her. So whatever she decides to do, she decides to do. Okay? But here's the thing, folks. I feel like, and again, this might seem controversial, so please, I'm going to try to speak about this as delicately as possible. If Aaron is the father, shouldn't he have a right to know? I mean, you could argue, well, Jeremy, he's the one who's actively trying to be with Karen. It's not her that's really pressing him to be together, because she's made it clear several times she's still not over Zack. Fair enough. And as annoying as it is that she's still trying to get with him, it's completely understandable, because Zack was doing the same thing to Karen back in season 1. Now, on top of that, it feels a bit, well, dang, if I am the father, shouldn't I be there to care for? I could see how that could diminish Aaron, as a man, because the woman who he has pregnant doesn't want anything to do with him, because she's too busy chasing after someone else. So, like I said before, if it turns out she's pregnant by someone who's not Zack, will she keep the baby or not? Whole bunch of questions we may have answered in the future, because she's so delusional at this point. I have no doubt she will either drag her feet or never tell Zack that he isn't the father, and still continue to pop up at his house and badger him for stuff, but it turns out he's not the daddy. So like I said, separate videos on the pregnancy thing. Really, the only talking point from this episode will come up later today. But aside from that, let's move on to the rest of the episode, and I'm going to kind of breeze through it, because to be honest, not too much happened. Let's go over to the bank, because there are a few scenes there. Sabrina's at the bank. She's helping out a customer. You could tell how bright and chipper she is by her yellow, as Maurice said, church gown, and her smile. She's helping out a customer. Maurice goes up to her to ask, what's going on? You get some last night? But Sabrina explains she had a great time, possibly the best date of her life. She felt like a princess. Bio is amazing, but yet she's still unsure about the Calvin thing. And Maurice says, look, the $36 million man and that one bank account we know of, you need to be focusing on him instead of butthurt and broke Calvin. I mean, look, and I've said this plenty of times, and you all have too in the comments. Realistically, it doesn't seem like there are a lot of Sabrinas out there who would be with someone who you're always second guessing their sexuality. It just doesn't seem quote unquote normal for someone to, or for anyone to be in a dating relationship like that. But Calvin has made it clear, oh, I love you. Oh, I want to be exclusive in a relationship. Sabrina has shot him down every single time. Why are we still dancing around this thing? It just doesn't make any sense whatsoever. All right, so yeah, she reiterates we didn't have sex, but we had a good time. And from there, flowers come in. The guy comes in with one vase, but then he has a cart. Then it turns out Bio bought a whole truck. So he basically tried to turn the bank into a florist shop. And from there, Sabrina calls Bio to basically say, hey, what am I supposed to do with all these flowers? And, she gave him a night of, just full of beauty. He wanted to do the same for her with a truck of flowers. So essentially what they can do is I'll donate all the flowers to one of the local hospitals only if you see me tonight. And I know it's a weeknight, so I won't keep you out too late, but I just want to see you. So Sabrina agrees and, hands over the phone to the delivery guy. He's happy because of Bio's kind gesture And from there, he's going to get a big tip as well. So after Maurice gets to keep like 1 or 2 vases of flowers, or vases, whatever the correct pronunciation is, Sabrina has 2 she wants to keep. And that's about it. The guy leaves. So Calvin shows up because I think Maurice actually tells Sabrina, you better talk to Calvin because he's coming in to, like, you know, deposit or cash a check. Calvin comes in there. Basically, he's in his feelings. He doesn't even want to talk to Sabrina. He'll get Maurice to help him out. And I don't feel too many ways about it. It's like the guy comes in there, act like he doesn't want to have anything to do with Sabrina, but then wants to say, hey, nice flowers, who are they from? Even though it's none of his business. And, you know, Sabrina's like, can we at least talk about this? And it's like, there's nothing to talk about, Sabrina. And it's like, I can't believe it's like, you talk to that guy, get his phone number, go out with him, and he humiliated me last night, even though technically you're the one who humiliated yourself by busting into the restaurant and treating him on the date. Yes, it was, quote unquote, returning the favor, since he did the same thing to you and Sabrina when, you know, he was first introduced. But I think most of the blame, believe it or not, goes to Sabrina, because Danny was the one that took her phone and then texted Calvin saying she had to cancel, and then next thing you know, contacted Bio so Sabrina would go out with him. So yeah, I could see Calvin being in his feelings, but the way he acted last night wasn't too mature. Oh, he got money. So yeah, again, that whole questioning sexuality thing. But yeah, so essentially, so do you like him? I only went out with him one time, Calvin. And he says there's nothing to talk about. And again, Maurice's like butthurt and broke. So Tyler is going to put these two together again, and it makes no sense. Seriously, this happened like, what was it, after the whole Jacoby thing in season 3? And Maurice took Calvin's phone and called Sabrina, gave the phone to Sabrina, and then Calvin showed up to her apartment, and then they made up, even though there was no catalyst for that at all. Okay, whatever. So Q shows up, and I'm like, what the hell? Q walks in there with flowers for Maurice, and he is more intelligent than usual by checking the card and sees that it's from Bio to Sabrina. So somehow Q either stole, or maybe he even asked for some of the flowers that Bio delivered to Sabrina to take and give to Maurice. And he tries to apologize, and he gets rejected. And he literally is like, well, hey, I'll be on your porch when you come home tonight. What? Folks, this could easily be a contender for the worst storyline Tyler Perry has ever written. The fact that the man who robbed the bank, held the bank manager and one of the employees at gunpoint, was able to just walk into the bank and leave like nothing was wrong. Yes, I know that he snitched on his friends and got, you know, to walk and everything, but this was just incredibly stupid. And then from there, Sabrina drops that catchphrase, Maurice, I don't like this. And he even goes so far to say, Calvin let him in last night. And that's a damn lie. Calvin said you should let him in, which was incredibly dumb in itself. But Maurice, you were the one that let him crash on the couch. And now he won't leave. This is so damn stupid. Alright, so that's all the Sabrina stuff at the bank. Alright, so at the beginning of the episode, you got Gary calling Andy. This was some great camera work at the penthouse. I love the window view and everything. It was just great. I mean, the penthouse suite looks great on Andy. So Gary calls Andy, basically requesting her company. And apparently he knows that she was alone last night. The whole Paris and Robin stuff is just a ploy to make him upset. And, ask if they can have lunch, even though in the last episode, Andy did agree to having lunch with Gary. But then before they spoke about it again, she said she needed to have lunch with her girls to talk about Karen. So he's like, well, damn, save some time for me. I'll think about it, Gary. Gets off the phone. Calls Witness Alert, El Fuego's up-and-coming electronic company, and she requests a clean sweep of her penthouse at some point after 5 p.m. today. Not gonna lie, yeah, kind of condescending here. It's like patronizing her own people, saying, I bet he ain't got no damn tools. Wow, Andy, way to judge somebody. I mean, it's funny because in the last episode, you were literally condoning Danny for the whole being a double standard in regards to El Fuego being a stripper, to make money. And it's like, Andy's like, well, women do the same thing too. Danny's like, no, it's not the same. I mean, it's not the same. Double standard much? Sheesh. All right, well, El Fuego's supposed to be coming over to the penthouse to, make a clean sweep. All right, so at work, Andy's walking around the office. Hayden greets her. And, obviously Andy doesn't want to have anything to do with him. And he brings up the subject of Fatima. And while Andy warns him to leave her alone, he scoffs that he can deal with her. And basically, the Gary subject is brought up. Now, it's interesting because I actually praised the episode in terms of continuity during this scene, because apparently Hayden says he and Gary have known each other for a few years, even though Andy retorts, but wait, I thought I introduced you two for the first time a couple of weeks ago. But it turns out that that was all a ruse. And I'm like, that's actually clever writing, where it's a retcon, but it makes sense in the context of the characters we know Gary and Hayden to be, where, oh, I'm introducing you two for the first time, but they actually know each other for a while because, an alliance and whatnot. But freaking Andy actually correctly guesses, so what do you know about each other? So does he have you here checking on me, knowing when Robin's walking around the office and everything like that? And I'm like, damn. So this probably leads even further into the whole peeping Tom situation, where Andy knows that Hayden's going to run his mouth about Robin to Gary, and then she's purposefully going to put on a show so Gary can watch, which I feel is very dangerous, but hey, it is what it is. So in any case, Hayden denies that and talks about how Fatima got arrested for all the damages last night that she did. And I'm going to have a meeting with the partners later today in order to have her fired because she's a danger to this company. And as a result, he warned Andy not to try to, bail her out due to the fact that I know the judge and she doesn't like violence. She's very non-violent. And as a result, people like Fatima aren't going to make bail. So Andy kind of has her hands tied at the moment. So from there, we get the next Andy scene of her and Fatima in jail. And basically, Andy is saying to Fatima everything I said over the past week and have been attacked for. So many people have dismissed me. Man, it's like, you suck. You calling out Fatima for this, and Hayden's a bitch, and this and that. And I'm like, yada, yada. I'm like, no, I mean, Hayden did what he had to do. And Fatima had plenty of opportunities to either call the police on Hayden or turn him into the police or talk to the higher ups at the company to get him fired for like tapping the phone lines or planting drugs in Zack's truck to get him arrested and whatnot. She chose to handle it herself. In any of those situations, she should have called the cops or informed the higher ups at the law firm. She chose not to do it. Like she said, from where I come from, we handle shit ourselves. Yeah, but like Dave Chappelle said, when keeping it real goes wrong. So, she basically breaks down to Fatima what Hayden has planned, and it's going to be very, very, very difficult to get her out of there. Because of the fact that, like I mentioned before, we talk with the partners, and the judge doesn't like violence, and it's going to be very difficult. So there's also a conversation where, Andy's like, I don't even know you. And that's actually very true. They're getting to know each other. But yeah, Andy doesn't know Fatima as well as she thought. And that's not a bad reflection on Fatima and Andy. It's just how it is. But essentially, all she can do is just wait. And she's up in there running her mouth, and Andy's telling her, don't be saying stuff like that. It's like, I should have killed that MFer. It's like, look, I got some ride or dies that will handle it. Well, Fatima, why didn't you get those ride or dies to go over to Hayden's place and do what you did to the car, to the TV and everything? Why didn't you do that? Instead, you decided to handle it yourself, and now look at you. Okay, so Andy says, look, I'll try to meet with the partners, and maybe Robin, remember, he owns it, so I have his ear, so possibly that could work. And remember, that's only if Robin isn't a con artist himself. So the most important thing about this is the fact that Fatima has not called Zack, due to the fact that she knows he will kill Hayden if he finds out that he had her arrested. So the thing is, if they aren't able to make bail, Fatima will call Zack. But I'm just thinking, so what is Zack supposed to think? He's blowing up your phone and you're not answering. I don't know. I mean, I like her thought process there, but we'll just have to wait and see. Also, it's funny how, Andy has a few jokes like, oh, those handcuffs are pretty classy, nice accessory and whatnot. And, it's just a little comedy to lighten the mood given the circumstances. But it's actually, like I always say, it's good to see Andy in her element, not being as airheaded and ditzy when it comes to all things Gary and men related. She's actually quite proficient at her job. It's just we rarely get to see that nowadays. So, speaking of Zack, Jake actually is done schooling Zack on like FCC protocol and different stocks. That way Zack is prepared if he's ever approached by people trying to wonder about his stock success. Now, it's funny because Zack says, well, hey, you went to Harvard, and Jake is like, yeah, it's like, but you catch on to these numbers pretty quick and whatnot. And yeah, and it's like, I know numbers. Yeah, I know you know numbers all the times you've been in jail. So he leaves. And Preston may or may not have been eavesdropping on the situation. But it's funny because apparently in the time he has been there, and it looks like Jake was actually there for a little while, Preston has only unloaded one single box of things that Zack has. And I mean, one box. It's not like, oh yeah, Zack, I unloaded a box and then I, set up a couple of tables. No, he says I unloaded one box, and I'm just like, wait, what? So from there, let's go over to the airport. Danny sees Logan reuniting, I think, a few girls with their families because they have been missing for 3 years. And yeah, this was a pretty good scene because it's pretty emotional. He's tearing up, and Danny approaches him about it. And yeah, it's like, hey, you know what? I'm making jokes, but don't undermine what you just did. It's a really big deal. It's great that you're doing this. So she actually talks about taking him to dinner, but he pays, which is an interesting conversation in itself. But yeah, it's like she invites him to dinner and apologizes for being a bitch, and it's, oh, you weren't a bitch and whatnot. And he'll make sure to pick her up at her house as opposed to meeting up together because he wants to make excuse me, I'm done with the Karen talk. He wants to make sure that she doesn't back out. And I'm just thinking like, look, I ain't trying to call Danny out of her name, but has she ever apologized to Preston for acting the way she does? Just saying. All right. So it's like one of those things where she even mentioned, I just want to get to know you more. And I'm like, wow. I mean, is it Danny actually putting in the work to get to know someone? Why does she do that with Preston? All right, so speaking of which, going back to Zack's place, and Zack's place looks amazing. I mean, look, this episode might not have been that great, but between the shots at Andy's penthouse and Zack's new place being set up, I like what I see. All right, so after hours of unpacking, Zack has this place together thanks to Preston, and he can't wait for Fatima to see it. It's funny because, how does it look, man? Preston's like, it looks nice. Better than nice, come on now. But the thing is, with him and Fatima, Preston asks, how's it going? There's no BS, there's no drama like it was before, aka Karen. And of course, Zack can tell Danny's on Preston's brain and basically tells him about the analogy of a dog commercial where a dog is shaking in the rain scared. Have you ever seen Danny in the rain shaking with the wig on? No, yeah, because she's scared. And it's like, she needs somebody to blow dry her hair. I can blow dry her hair. Look, Preston, it's an analogy. She's scared. It's like, you just have to be there to work and whatnot. And the thing is, we know Preston is more than willing to do so. It's just Danny who doesn't want to do it with him. So then there's a couple of jokes here about, how how Preston is thirsty. He's like, come on, man, I help you unload all this stuff. It's like, I think Zack wants to do a cheers, but then they're empty cups, and it's like, oh yeah, well, I mean, white privilege, come on now. And it's like, you have me in here working all these hours to help you unpack, and you don't even have anything to offer to drink. Come on, black people. Hey, that's black privilege. Come on now, 2021. Again, that is a video for another time. This makes no sense how it's 2021. But I'm just like, come on, Zack, funny scene, but you could have offered your boy even a bottle of water or something, all that work, and you ain't got no refreshments. Come on, dog. All right, so after that, Zack gets on the phone. He calls Fatima. No answer. He said he's tried to reach her all day, but no luck. So he just says, I got a surprise for you. And, he just hangs up the phone. All right, folks, and that's about it. That's the episode in itself from top to bottom, shaking in the rain. Like I said, meh. It was alright. 6 out of 10. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. Hit subscribe. Hit the bell icon to select all. That way you don't miss out whenever I post content on the channel. Follow me on social media. Links are in the description below, and I'll catch you in the next one.